So I do a lot of creating and talking about my own design work on this channel. However, in this video, I wanted to use my platform to highlight some insanely talented designers that I think you should all check out and that continue to inspire me on a consistent basis. So this first designer is somebody that I've talked about before, Shewbridge. They are probably one of my biggest visual inspirations, and they do a lot of design work that I feel like I aspire to do and is in kind of the similar world that I like. Very textural, very typographic driven, limited color palettes, but also using bright colors here and there. And they just have a very interesting approach to using simplistic fonts, but laying them out in a way that you would have never really maybe thought of or decided to do like as your first option. I think Chase is really paving the way for visuals in the music industry. And they also work a lot in tandem with this other designer named Eddie Mendel, and they make up this collective called Metals. To me, they're kind of the industry standard right now when it comes to visuals and design in the music industry, and they do these unapologetic, grungy, typographic driven visuals that will be all the way from like some avant-garde like techno artists up to, you know, someone like Sabrina Carpenter, and there's not much compromise between any of those. It seems like they're bringing this really raw and avant-garde energy even to giant artists like that, which I really respect. Chase has done a lot of awesome one-off visuals that you can check out on his Instagram, poster designs, flyers, this and that. But two of the projects that I really wanted to highlight that I thought were amazing were his album art for Man's Best Friend by Sabrina Carpenter. Every single asset of this visual seems so well thought out and so cohesive as a system. The photography is beautiful. The type around it is all very creative. The mix of the handwritten like typewriter stuff and also actual handwritten stuff on a napkin. It feels raw and gritty, but it still feels very on brand with something that Sabrina Carpenter would do. And I think that's a special talent that Chase and Eddie and all the people who work with them have, is taking this designer's design approach where we will all love to consume and see, and applying it to something that the masses and also someone like fans of Sabrina Carpenter can enjoy. Another project that really impressed me by Chase is this album art for Mia Folick. Beautiful typography. I love the way he built out all these different assets, and it's a very simplistic approach with just some simple serifs, but it has this maximalist kind of aesthetic with the type being all stacked on each other like on the labels, or simple clean grids over on the actual inserts. And every time I see Chase post a new album art, I know I'm in for a treat to look through the visuals, so definitely go check them out. This next designer is Braulio Amado, another one who is a big visual inspiration for me and someone that I aspire my work to have that level of creativity and uniqueness. Braulio has some of my favorite posters ever made because he mixes hand-done illustration, digital illustration with awesome typography, interesting layouts, and something that could be very simple or very complex or everything in between. And I think he has a very unique style when it comes to his choices of color, the way he lays out his compositions on his posters. And he does this really cool thing when he does all these flyers for this event thing, Good Room. And sometimes it'll be like a weird kind of interesting illustration or graphic thrown in the middle of the flyer with some typography, and then you'll look on Instagram and the next slide that made that illustration would just be like a picture of a piece of yarn or a dirty sign on a pole somewhere. So just find random things in the world, take a picture of them, use that as direct inspiration for the main hero graphic on a rave flyer or some kind of poster design. And I just think it's like a really cool and interesting thing. And I think Braulio's doing stuff that a lot of designers aren't doing right now. He does awesome album art too, like this vice versa one I thought was really interesting. The typography, the use of the silver foil. He also actually did the album art for the Andre 3000 flute album, and I thought that was a beautifully done illustration. The typography was tight on it. The minimalist look and color choices was beautiful. And he's just someone who always inspires me. So definitely go check out Braulio Amado. This next designer is someone that I discovered recently. I'm so sorry if I am butchering your name, but Kristyna Kulikova. This girl makes some of the most interesting, maximalist, kind of neo, medieval, gothic, insane posters and flyers for these events that I've probably ever seen. Every time I see one of her posts, I feel like I've commented the same thing on almost all of her Instagram flyers saying, this is insane. Like that's just what immediately goes to my brain. The typography is tight and beautiful. The visuals will be like a knight or a dragon or some like insane mythological thing all paired into like this overlaid typography. And it's just stuff that I've never seen anything quite like this. And I don't see anyone else do anything that even comes close to how detailed and unique and her own style this is. I love when someone has a style that they lean into and it doesn't feel forced and it doesn't feel like they're trying to be different just to be different, but it's good. And the fact that it's different is just an added bonus. And I think she's insanely talented, and definitely if you want to feel jealous of someone's skills, definitely go check out this designer, Kristyna. Next up is another designer who I see heavily work in the music industry, and that is Brodie Kaman. Very beautiful typography, good use of layout and visuals. The stuff that he did for Don Toliver I thought was absolutely amazing. And I think that's how I first discovered this person. My favorite project from the year was from Brodie, and it was his art direction and design for the Mayhem album art by Lady Gaga. This kind of had everything that I would want in a design, both from what I love aesthetically and I think the fans of someone like Lady Gaga and the sound of this album would like. The distressed typography was beautiful. The hand done Mayhem logo type was nice. The abracadabra mixed logo type thing was awesome. The layouts of the photography were treated in such an interesting way. It had the color orange, which is just a nice little treat for me considering that's my favorite. The lyric sheet layout was insane, and he's just continued to like top that off by posting even more and more interesting stuff about this project every time I see his Instagram. Super cool cassette designs for the Lady Gaga album, the Japanese version that had the really cool obi strip, and I just think that was probably my favorite project of the year, and I think Brodie will continue to do more awesome stuff, so definitely go follow them and check them out. This next designer is a little bit different, both stylistically and the work they do. Their name is Safehaven. I've been probably following them on Instagram for a while. They're one of the first designers that I followed online where I would look at their work as a young designer and just not be sad, but almost like disappointed knowing I'm probably never gonna make anything even close to this. This work is so detailed and so well done that I also haven't seen anything like this done properly in this way. Beautiful typography, the color choices are always super solid. Even when he does posters, they'll have this very 3D done element and feels like they're popping out of the page. Futurist, like Neo Tokyo type stuff, but also it'll be like some Cronenberg, like disgusting, like flesh thing attached to it, or some really cool, like mythological looking things, or a sword, or just all kinds of really cool elements. And I feel like he's developed a really good design language that blends all those very contrasting worlds together. He's also been posting these really cool videos on Instagram, which are like these visual checkpoints, I think he calls them, where it's some really cool looping animation that feels like something out of like Evangelion or some old 90s anime that has this like an old interface doing some kind of cool visuals, and something that's just like a dopamine hit for your brain. So cool video stuff, cool design work, and just an awesome style, and seems like a good dude from when I've talked to him, so definitely go check him out. So speaking of moving stuff, this next one is a good friend of mine and motion designer, Jack, or Jackio on Instagram. He does these awesome logos and super clean, like kind of looping and simple animations that just make your brain feel good when you watch them. But they're also all ran through this authentic analog CRT process that he does that makes all the visuals feel like they're from the 70s and 80s, and it's very retro done right. And I like the thing I really respect about Jack is it doesn't feel like he's doing this retro stuff just for the gimmick. Like, he's about that life for real. He has millions of not millions, but he has like hundreds of CRTs spread across his room, invested in this aesthetic, not just because he thinks other people will like it or he thinks it'll make money or something. It feels like very authentic and what he enjoys doing. And he recently got to do the visuals for Channel 5, which I thought was really awesome. And it's cool to be so known for a specific style like this that it seems like people will refer you or recommend you. And I think that Jack is one of the good examples of having a niche and it working out a lot better than being a more generalist, because it definitely works both ways. But Jack's done this awesome. Definitely go check out his cool analog CRT motion graphics. All right, this next one is Atkins, a super awesome designer that I discovered maybe 4 years ago or so. They make all these authentic, vintage looking visuals for movies and for TV and stuff like that, like very Wes Anderson-esque. They did stuff for a lot of his movies, and it's just a really cool job, right? So all the fake stuff that you would see in a film, like let's say a Wes Anderson film, whether it be stop motion or live action. Let's say there's a town, right? It needs signs, it needs storefronts, it needs letters, it needs old manuscripts, it needs all these different weird little things that look historical and accurately done. And he makes those, like a police file from a crime show or whatever. And I just think it's such a unique and cool design position. And I always like seeing what they share. I've bought in their book in the past to look through all their amazing work. And I just think it's really cool to see someone make something in the design world that really feels like they made their own lane for themselves. Like it's a very practical design skill to have, but it's this thing that feels like a really cool specialty, you know? And yeah, like everything from the hand painted signs to fictional postcards, they feel so accurately done. You can tell they do all their research, and I just really respect it. And I think they're awesome. So go check them out, Atkins. All right, this next one is not an individual per se, but it's Fisk Projects, probably my favorite design studio currently working today. The guy who runs it is named Bijan. They're kind of paving the way for avant-garde visuals in both the music industry and branding and just as a design studio. I feel like they're almost responsible for people thinking that stretching type and stuff is cool now. And you know, I'm a victim of that as well. A lot of the stuff I see that they've done feels very against the rules of all the stuff that they tried to hammer into my brain in college. But this is like recorrecting that and being like, oh shit, design's supposed to be fun and design's supposed to be expressive and artful, and you can apply these creative decisions to a giant thing like a branding or an album for a giant artist. Some of my favorite projects they've done is the Kaytranada Amine thing. That was like a mix of these very tropical beach aesthetics, and they just do a lot of cool stuff, very colorful, very expressive, and very fun. The Mahal, Tori, and Moi stuff was really cool, and I like how they build out such an insane world. Fisk is kind of a big inspiration for me for Questa Studio and leaning more into building out bigger projects and expand visual worlds beyond just an album art front back cover inserts. Like they're doing flyers, they're doing music videos, they're doing social stuff. Like it feels very all encompassing, and it's really fun to build out a visual world like that. And I think they're doing that in a beautiful way. They did this faceplant branding, which was almost like a more fun remix of like an In-N-Out or a classic burger joint, but it was for this vegan burger thing or plant-based burger thing called Faceplant, and I thought that was beautiful. Definitely go check them out, especially if you want to work in the design industry as a studio or at an agency or in a more day-to-day work position like that. This should be like at least one of the blueprints for you. They're awesome, so I'm really stoked with what they're doing out there. Check them out, Fisk. All right, this next one is Pierre, super cool designer, someone I've talked to a little bit here and there online. They do awesome flyers for a lot of raves and events and posters and stuff, I guess heavily in the music industry. I know a lot of these skew towards that, but you know, that's what I like. That's what I like to do. That's the type of visual diet that I want to have. So sorry if my biases are a little too strong here, but Pierre does awesome stuff. I really kind of fell in love with his work when I saw this cool sport mode thing that he did that was like all these almost like security cam footage aesthetic, but also like old technology. And he also did this x-ray scan thing, and I saw he had an actual x-ray machine and was scanning stuff and making these flyers. And I just think he has a really creative approach to typography, compositions, and making flyers cool. He takes a lot of pride and puts a lot of effort into his Photoshop skills to make these flyers feel like art pieces in themselves, even if it's just for a one-day event or a rave or whatever. Everything from a fake lottery ticket scratcher thing that looks hyper realistic to a rave flyer made out of a bunch of pressed ecstasy pills. I just think he's doing really cool stuff, and you should definitely check it out. And we need more people in the design world finding their own lane and making cool stuff like this. This last designer is Melina. They have a really good approach to color, layout, typography. It's simple, but it's not too minimal. It's not understated. They have a good grasp of texture, and they work a lot with both concept work and official client work and just personal projects. And I really respect that because it's something that I do online a lot. And sometimes I feel a little weird way about it, especially as I start to work with bigger clients. Does posting concept work devalue it or not? And I'm not sure. But when I see other people do it, it reminds me that it's all just fun. We're just trying to make stuff. It's proof of concept for future things, and I don't really think it does any harm at the end of the day. Their visuals are so well done that you don't even know half the time, because it could be real, not, doesn't matter. It looks good, you know? And they've done cool stuff for like these record vinyl sticker things, very textural stuff by scanning in like leaves and mixing that with the typography. And I just think they're a really talented designer, and you know, someone that I like following on Instagram. So definitely go check them out, Melina. That was just 10, right? But before I go, I wanted to just speed run a couple honorable mentions because I couldn't include everybody that I like in this, and I'm not going to even include everyone right here, right now, but a couple more people I think you should check out. Dewey Saunders, Jake Pressure, Jaked Up, Bill Connors, Needle Design, Bradley Pinkerton, and Mihalo. Definitely go check those people out too. Screenshot it, whatever. I'm going to link all this stuff in the description below. I think all of these designers have a few things in common that made me gravitate towards them. They have their own strong voice, they have constant experimentation, and they have a great way of bringing you into their own unique visual worlds. And this is just scratching the surface though, so go check them all out. Find even more amazing people who can inspire you. Find who inspired those designers that I mentioned, and just dive deep into this cool rabbit hole of graphic design that a lot of us have grown to love. Also, I'm always looking for even more cool designers to check out, so drop your favorites in the comments below. That's it for now. I'll catch you in the next one. Much love. Peace.